All right. Well, the United States has taken action today in Syria. It struck weapons depots belonging to the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. We can talk a bit about that now with Behnam Ben Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Behnam, thanks for joining us. This was in response, wasn't it, to IRGC attacks on American assets in Iraq a few days ago?
Yes, indeed. Iraq and Syria, I think at least since October 17 or October 18, depending on how you count and what open source information you're using, there's been upwards of 10, 12, perhaps even 14 indirect fire attacks, be it mortar, rocket, or drone on positions in Iraq and Syria affiliated with the U.S. force presence. This is the first time in response to those attacks that the U.S. has authorized the use of force. The press statement following that by the Secretary of Defense did talk about something that was narrowly tailored in precision strike and self-defense. With immense respect, if you do translate that conceptually into Persian, I'm sure the Iranians are not deterred, given the need by the U.S. to politically dampen the impact of the strike. When to successfully deter Iran, you might want to politically expand it.
Okay, and these strikes in and of themselves are not very unusual, are they? We do see strikes like this at a time where a war isn't raging, but given the war that's going on right now, it does have other connotations, doesn't it?
Yes, there's the broader picture, which is Iran is attacking U.S. forces this time to simply draw U.S. support away from Israel and to threaten America with a potential wider war if America continues to stand with Israel, as Israel is exploring its military options against Hamas in Gaza. But back to the norm, even though, for instance, President Biden does have a greater response ratio than President Trump, meaning he's used more force against these militias historically, meaning since 2021, he has only responded or almost exclusively responded in Syria. You mentioned the point of origin of some strikes being Iraq. You mentioned some strikes in Iraq earlier. Time will tell if the U.S. will actually strike back against the point of origin in Iraq or against some of the militias that are trained and equipped in Iraq as well.
And remarkably, I mean, the Iranian Foreign Minister, Amir Abdullahian, was walking around New York yesterday. He gave an address at the UN General Assembly in which he pretty directly threatened the United States, and he said that the United States would not be spared from the fire engulfing the region if the violence in Gaza continued.
That's right. Iran is trying to hold America accountable for any kind of Israeli military action in Gaza. And more broadly, this is part of the strategic attempt by Tehran to divide Washington from Jerusalem because it knows that Jerusalem is going to be responding militarily. So Tehran is trying to do everything to save or bail out its proxy in Gaza and at the same time play up America's fears about escalation in a wider regional war. Again, time will tell if America falls into that trap or not, but Iranians feel increasingly emboldened, not just the Iranian officials like Abdullahian, as you mentioned, but also hardline Iranian press have been making these comments as well.
Right, and over the past couple of days, we've seen the Iranian Revolutionary Guards staging military drills, a show of force. Behnam, what should we read into that?
Unfortunately, a group like the IRGC, which is designated for a foreign terrorist organization here in the U.S., has no shortage of military drills. But right now what they're trying to do is signal resolve through more of these maneuvers, trying to get Washington to know that the regime remains risk-tolerant, not risk-averse, even though the regime is facing quite a catch-22 of its own, meaning at what point would its chief proxy in the Levant, Lebanese Hezbollah, have to enter the fray and then risk even losing that to bail out another proxy? So this is really an attempt by Tehran to operationalize its ring of fire and death by a thousand cuts strategy, even though it is going to be quite risky to Tehran. And that's why how Washington responds and when Washington responds and where Washington responds is going to be key to deterring Iran and keeping Iran and its proxies off the sidelines as Israel continues against Hamas.